You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
Okay, welcome to the Village of Wampler's Fall second monthly meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees. Today's Wednesday, October 3rd. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd just like to say special thanks to resident Jim Chase for assisting me in going around to all the telephone poles in the village and recording their numbers for a Central Hudson requirement. Evidently, they needed to know what the pole numbers were or are for the poles that have hometown hero banners on them. It took quite a while to do it, and I would just like to publicly thank
I've seen
Resident Jim Chase for his effort.
Yeah, I've seen Jimmy out there.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, roll call.
Mayor Huber,
Present.
Trustee Nicholas.
Here.
Trustee Tilizak.
Here.
Trustee Marshall.
Here.
Trustee Mosh.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Trustee Ruffin. Absent. Village Attorney Lindars.
Here.
Regular session, Resolution 3324 of 2024, appointing Police Commissioner of the Village of Wappingers Falls Police Department. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 3224 of 2024, resolution introducing a local law number 3 of the year 2024, repealing Chapter 32, Traffic Violations Bureau, Chapter 104, Parking, and Chapter 143, Vehicles and Traffic in their entirety, and replacing them with a new Chapter 143, Vehicles and Traffic. Can I have a motion?
It's in the green thing in the back seat.
Need a motion?
I'll make the
Is
motion.
this,
Is there a second?
I'll second. What do we?
this is the first I'm hearing about it, I just
It's in
wondered.
your packet, we talked about it 2 weeks ago.
This is the law that's been in work.
Oh, for Cardinia.
Oh,
I would just like to say.
No, this is not the Cardinia law. This
We
is,
did the Cardinia law.
yeah,
Well, this is the one about our gas and stuff like that?
no, this law is,
Off-street parking for the winter months.
Yes.
yeah,
There's a bunch of them in there.
yeah, so this one will, among other things, address the snow ordinance. It'll codify the snow ordinance. It will, create it's kind of unifying, or I guess that's the word, a lot of 4-hour parking in the downtown area. So we've got 4-hour parking on a number of different areas, so we kind of stabilized that. It's got the EV parking regulations. It's got,
One-way streets.
huh?
One-way streets.
All right, so it has all that.
it's all in our package.
And what about if they combine with the plows and the cars have not been moved?
So how that's written is, if the National Weather has issued a winter weather advisory or a winter weather warning, there will be no parking on village streets for 48 hours. That's 24 hours before the storm and 24 hours after the storm, so you get the highway through enough time to clean up. This law is no different than if they park there overnight. If they park there overnight, the village police department will issue a ticket and these cars could be towed. So,
We've also added into the law the ability to mobilize vehicles, which did not exist in our prior code. So now we can mobilize vehicles, and in order to have that removed, they'll have to pay all past due parking tickets. So it'll be a means of enforcement as well.
We have a motion by Trustee Marsh, seconded by Trustee Nicholas. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
carried.
The next order of business is we will need to conduct a public hearing for that local law, and I need the board tonight to tell me when you want to have the hearing. Right now, if you looked at the calendar, the next meeting will be November 13th.
13th.
Do you want me to schedule it for November 13th? Can I have a motion?
Is that sufficient time to get it into the newspaper and published for?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Once we have it in by tomorrow, it should be in the paper by next Wednesday, the Southern Dutchess News. So next Wednesday will be the 6th.
Give us 5 days to the next meeting.
Oh, no, I was wrong. I don't mean November.
I was gonna say that.
I mean-
it's tight to me.
I'm glad you said that. I meant December.
December?
Yes, that sounds right.
December 11th is our meeting.
No,
The 11th.
no, December 11th, right?
Yep, December 11th will be our meeting.
It'll be December. Can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Thank you for that.
What time?
7 PM, regular board
7
meeting.
for the meeting?
7 PM is a regular board meeting.
I know what time is gonna be the first thing at the board meeting, or are we gonna?
Always do them up front.
Okay.
Okay. Village of Wappingers Falls Resolution 3424 of 2024. Whereas the Village of Wappingers Falls seeks to establish terms of employment for Brian Murphy as building inspector effective November 1st, 2024. Can I have a motion?
I would like to make the motion, but before I do, did they do the revising with Zuckerman about the 3 days, the 3 weeks vacation and all that?
The Personnel Committee has met with
Okay,
Brian and-
but they took care of that one,
Right.
because he didn't get it. Okay, I'll make the motion to accept for the mayor to sign.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Justice Chase, by the way, who's been in and out of the hospital frequently, as much as even today, with lower back pain. I don't know to what extent, but it's kind of serious. He selected Richard Archer as a non-paid volunteer police attendant. I have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
One good thing is, he's down in Fishkill, and he used to be a cop here for a long time.
I thought I knew that.
Discussion boathouse rental rules. Mayor.
So this was trustee Ruffin asked me to put this on the agenda. I have no information and trustee Ruffin's not here. I don't know if Beth has anything on this. You don't?
I was waiting to hear what you guys said.
I'm sorry, I don't have anything.
Trustee
You
Ruffin
can
still
do
had
whatever
some,
you want.
he had some questions still with it, wanting to know who does the inspection afterwards, if it's dirty, who cleans it up, who determines whether or not we give them back their deposit. Those were his questions that he asked me to relay.
Do you sit on the board? You sit on that committee?
I'm only on the park commission.
All right, so we'll table this till November 13th meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Planning Board Chairman Tom Morris is making a presentation for
Everything
but the
planning board. Bob, you want to get those 3 switches furthest to the wall? Thanks.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I'll try not to turn my back to too many people, but well, tonight I'm going to be talking about 5 different things. Just want to do a wrap-up on the Bain Park work. You've all seen it. Hopefully everybody's enjoying it. The new electric vehicle charging station down on Mill Street. The village received an award for some of the work that I'll talk to you about in a moment. Climate vulnerability assessment. This is the second and third phase of some of the work that I presented a year ago and earlier this year. And then some zoning code updates. Our zoning code's been in place now since the beginning of the year, and we've come across some things that slipped through that should not have, and we want to fix them. So we'll start off with the Bain Park. This is just a quick summary. The construction of this park was all fully paid for by 2 community development block grants and 1 redirection of a Dutchess County grant. Total contractor expenses with the changes that we had to make came in at $302,786. Our grant total was $316,700, so we ended up coming in just shy of $14,000 under budget. And also, we finished 6 weeks ahead of the original schedule, so everybody was happy with that, especially the county, since this had been ongoing for many, many years. Many, yes. Okay, and the ribbon cutting happened on the 13th of July, so it was very good. Okay, it's kind of a picture of it, and I just want to say thank you to Charlie Ferry and the Parks Department for the garbage can. That was very helpful. Now we just got to keep people from dropping off old toys in that we're finding in the park now. So, but we'll do what we can do.
Lock it down for the winter?
Sorry.
Excuse me?
You lock it down for the winter?
No, it'll be open. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay, and just a quick reminder that this is the whole Bain Park original proposal. We only did this little green section in the corner here. There are actually 2 more phases with a pavilion and community gardens and a walking trail and an exercise field for like sports and that. We just got to come up with grants now, so we got to have our. Can I help you? Am I okay? Okay, good. Yeah, grant writer just kind of see if she can come up with some more dollars for us. Okay, we'll move on to the next grant that we have executed on, and that was the electric vehicle charging stations. We wanted to do electric vehicle charging stations because, as you can tell, there are more and more of them coming up on the roads, etc. And we're trying to encourage people to come into the center of the village. That's why Mill Street was selected, amongst other reasons, and I'll tell you what those other reasons are, but you probably already know. We had a zero emissions grant from New York State DEC. That grant was for $9,790. So that was the challenge, trying to get that. They quote unquote assigned us that money back in April of 23, but they wouldn't give us the check until August of this year. So, but we did get it. The company that we went with, although this is not the big and fancy type chargers you saw elsewhere, because if we did, the entire amount of our grant would have went to just to buy the chargers, and then they don't work if you don't plug them in and that stuff. So we went with the Livingston Energy Group, which is an authorized company by the state of New York. Basically, it gives us charging capabilities for 2 different vehicles at the same time. We, in the grant pays for 2 years of our software network as well as our maintenance. So we're covered for 2 years, and then we're going to start building up a kitty by people actually using it. And yes, there's been a few people who have used it already. I checked before I came over. They weren't all me, so. Okay, the southwest corner, you probably know where that is. Right over here. This is Coop, the Champagne Bar. And then these 2 spots here are ADA, and these 2 spots are now the charging stations. And this is what it looks like, all finished. We've got the bollards there to make sure nobody backs over it and destroys all the good work. We've got these big arms on it that actually hold the cables off the ground. And they're on retention, so you can pull the cable out, plug it into your car, and when you let it go, it goes back. So nothing lays on the ground, and people don't drive over it and ruin them. I've seen too many of those happen. Okay, this was our schedule. As you can see, it was an aggressive schedule, and we actually finished up about a week ahead of schedule that we had planned. Okay, and basically here's all the breakdown of the costs, the amount for the grant, the individual items here. You know, the energy group for the chargers. We had the electrician. We had signs for the DPW. And by the way, you want to say an official thank you to Tommy and the DPW guys. They were outstanding, very helpful in making this project happen. Materials, inspection, you know, the electrical inspection, miscellaneous hardware, paint, etc. Blah blah blah. But bottom line is, we came in almost $2,000 under budget. So. I wish we could spend that money elsewhere, but they don't let us do that. All right. For those people who are familiar with electric vehicles, there's apps that you can look up where these things are. So if you want to go there and charge, you can tell whether or not they're available or not. The U.S. Department of Energy has a listing. That's the very first. We're already registered on that, so people can see that. There's an app called the PlugShare app. It tells you all the different chargers in all the different areas. It's not specific to any brand or anything. It's anybody and everybody. The Violink app, which is the company that actually supplied the chargers, it's on the village website in the notification bar, and if you click on it up there, it'll take you to the climate page, and there's some more information on that, as well as this presentation. It's in the on the community Facebook, a couple of different posts. Thank you, John. And we're doing pretty good with that. And the last item I think you guys were just addressing, and that was the law to back it up. Okay. Questions, comments? If not? Oh, let me just one more thing here. These are just in the future, possibly, maybe. We're talking about future locations. Originally, Franny Reese Memorial Park, but there's like very limited parking up there, so we'll have to look for a new location. The only thing about this one is that it had the same setup as Mill Street in that the parking lot was right there with its own power panel, so it kept costs low. But this parking lot, I've seen it, it's full almost all the time, so we'll have to look for something else. And then also, we're talking about possibly the back of the Village Hall here, and also the police department, with an effort, if we can get some grants, to get some electric vehicles for the police for patrol, and possibly the code enforcement officer or fire chief, whatever, for their daily runarounds, and we need some place for them to charge. And then Patriots Park, you see that one's grayed out because that's a private location, and right now, working with a lady by the name of Lisa Applebaum from Plug-in Stations Online, and she's working with the owner of Patriots Park to see if they will foot the bill to install them. So far, not a lot of progress there, but at least inroads are being made. Okay. Building Bridges Award Certificate. Oh, okay, this wasn't supposed to be that way. Actually, it's supposed to be the other way, but that's all right, because we have the real thing here. This award I picked up at the Hudson Valley Regional Council a few weeks back, and it was to recognize the climate work that this village has done so far. And I'll take you through some of it in a minute right after this, as well as the charging station and other work that we've done in the past. So I wanted to hand this award off to Kevin for the village.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome. Okay. So here's, this is going to be a little in-depth. I'll take it to the level only as deep as you guys want to go. The full report, all many pages of it, is on the website. You can go to the climate page and read it at your leisure. So I'm just going to try to hit the high points. At any point in time I'm going too high, just raise your hand and I will gladly stop and you can dig down a little bit. Okay, climate vulnerability assessment. This was in conjunction with the Hudson Valley Regional Council. I was the lead. I was lucky enough to get an intern to help me on a lot of this work. So we had to set a vision statement. Now this vision statement is supposed to help position the village for getting additional grants. And just before I came over here, I was on a call where the village could potentially get another non-matching, fully free, quote-unquote, $10,000 grant to do things like update the lightings in the buildings, the occupant sensors, to turn the lights off automatically, as well as programmable thermostats. So, and all possibly putting a charger unit on the back of the building here. All which could be contained within like $10,000. And none of it would come from the village. So, this statement positions us for those type of grants. Now, a lot of words here, but basically what it says is the first phase was actually doing an assessment of greenhouse gases, etc., I completed that last spring, and that helped us move forward and get in better position for grants. The next was to analyze all that information in phase 2 and see where the areas we should approach. The third phase was actually, we did some surveys. We had a survey off the website, we had some surveys at the library, and we reached out to a number of different groups to get input. I'm a little disappointed to tell you that we didn't get a lot of feedback, but we got some, and we used that feedback to help us develop the plan that's on the right. And that's not the real plan, that's just a listing of what we were looking at, and I'll take you through some of that stuff. Okay, these are the 3 hot buttons for any climate initiative across the board. These are like boilerplate ones. Rising sea levels don't affect us to any great degree. The closest it comes is the highway department down by the stream in the creek there. Storms and precipitation changes, as well as increasing temperatures. Okay, part of this had to do with vulnerable communities, and the boxes that are checked next to all this stuff is stuff that when we went out to poll people, this is some of the feedback they gave us, which is good feedback, because when we get into a vulnerable community status, which the village is, because it could check these boxes, we move a little higher up in the grant list. So that's a good thing for us. Okay, public engagement, public surveys. Unfortunately, we sent out lots and lots of them, and we got 25 back. So it could have been nicer if that was more, but we didn't. The CVA, which is the Climate Vulnerability Assessment, is on the village website. We surveyed community groups and Wapakus Falls government leaders and Dutchess County, and we didn't get a lot of response from any of those folks. So we took the responses that we got and went forward. And these are the check boxes that we got back from those people who did respond. All these different areas: residential building, governments and private facilities, water, dams, bridges, all this kind of good stuff that we should focus on as we go forward. Okay, so we kind of broke them down and prioritized them based on what the feedback we got from the public, etc. And the first one was environmental, and obviously our biggest environmental item is our lake. And there's concerns that as the ambient temperature rises, the lake's makeup could start changing a little bit from the standpoint of dissolved oxygen, etc., as well as stormwater runoff from rainstorms, etc., and upstream septic systems, etc., all end up in Wapakus Lake.
Right now, we're begging for water,
Yeah.
the whole stream.
Oh, we're in that drought section.
I know,
We got a cycle going now. Of,
big time.
okay, then there was the infrastructure. This is no news to any of us who live in the village. Water and wastewater infrastructure. That's also challenging, and I know we're working on those particular items as we go. Energy and communications infrastructure. One of the things that the overall group came up with was that we should probably have some type of emergency backups for like the village hall or the library, etc., where we could potentially have cooling centers. Because if we get a long period of excessive heat, the vulnerable community would need a place to cool off.
Well, that's Gardner's Firehouse is one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, what was I gonna say? Gardner's Firehouse is one, yeah.
And then from a social standpoint, I just kind of rolled it in before, but the elderly, disabled, people with health conditions, we have low income, communication barriers, because our makeup of our demographics is changing. There's more and more folks who speak more than English. Nursing homes, and we happen to have one of those in the village here. So these were the items that we kind of looked at. Okay. About this assessment that we did, it says that in order to stay on the path for grants, we need to do the assessment a minimum once every 7 years. So since we did it here in '24, we're good for 7 years. Or in case of a major storm or something, we should do a reassessment at that time. Okay, these are all basically those items with proposed adaptation. We should look at them in these particular years. Backup generators for the village hall, highway departments, police department, Grinnell Library, etc. Look at it over the next couple of years to see if that's something feasible. Work with utilities and upstream communities, etc. So I'll let you folks read these on your own offline. And these are only proposed. So. Also, from the environmental, seek funding for a biological study of the lake. To help with that, I know we've been trying to get money for that for a long time. Okay. Launch an effort to plant trees along sidewalks and that. One of the studies came back that says that a lot of heat comes up when you don't have something to cool you down, and trees do that for us. So looking to encourage more tree planting, and you'll see that from the village planning board standpoint when I get to the next part of this presentation. Okay, social, update the village communications. Right now there is on the village website a place where you can sign up for email and text of notifications, etc. So that's a good thing. And also, try to encourage the community in general to kind of do organized neighborhood groups for buddy systems, etc. Okay, the plan is, that I just spoke about is posted on the website. Said that a few times. It's out there on the climate page. This presentation is to you folks. And then encourage public comment. So if you're talking to somebody and they have some thoughts, please send them my way, or tell them to go to the climate page and use the climate email. We have an email just for these type of comments, and that would be great. So either way, as long as I can hear it, we can start adding it to our list. Okay, so that's your climate. Now we're going to go into the zoning code. Okay, as I said earlier, the implementation of the zoning code happened earlier this year, and there's been a few instances that we found that the code did not capture the true intent of what we wanted to do. Also, we talked about some climate stuff there. We wanted to make sure we rolled that in, and these proposed changes is to try to address those. So the number one obvious one that we have here is our historic overlay. Our historic overlay right now sits on top of the West Village Lofts, the new building, which is incorrect. It was supposed to be over the Hog building, right next to it. So that's the first change we want to make. We want to correct that. It's an obvious error.
You're talking the new building that was built.
Yeah, that should not be a historic overlay.
Okay.
The building next to it, the Hog,
It's supposed to be.
that is supposed to
I
be.
thought you were going to move the building over where the house.
No. That's why the arrow points to that little corner piece, because that's where the Hog is. That's where the box was supposed to be. And unfortunately, all of us, myself included, who reviewed this map last year, missed that. So we want to fix it. Okay, the next thing is use regulations of Section 5. We talk about upper floor and basement apartments in village residential. It's very strange. If you're on one side of the village, it's allowed, basement apartments or accessory dwelling units in the basement. But if you're on the other side of the village, it's not. We're basically the same zone. We want to correct that. That should not have happened. It was another slip through the cracks here. So we're going to change that to allow in village residential upper floor and basement apartments. And it's going to be listed in the table. It's going to appear as a P with a splat. Well, that basically means it's permitted with site plan approval.
Now, was that, just for the one that wasn't correct is Poughkeepsie side?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes. The Poughkeepsie side is the side that was not correct.
okay.
So we got to fix that. That should never happen. Okay, the next was a couple of our climate stuff here. Solar carports. In other words, if people want to put a carport up, they can put solar panels right on the top of it. There's nothing wrong with that, doesn't impact anybody, and then people can actually generate some electricity that way. Now, you take that from a residential standpoint, you take it to the next level, and we call solar canopies. The solar canopies are these massive canopies that basically cover parking lots. And I've been to a few places where they had them, and they are absolutely fantastic in the summertime because you get to park in a nice shady spot. It's not hot under there, and the whole top, the whole roof is all solar panels. And that energy is then pumped back into the grid. So we want to make that allowable in the RMU, VMU, VC, CMU, and E districts. Okay. The next one here is a section, we want to add this section here, and that is whenever an application comes before the planning board and they have off-street parking, we want to just have the discussion on the off-street parking to try to bring it into conformance as close as possible, and that's what it says right there. It's brought into compliance with this section to the maximum extent practical as determined by the planning board. So unfortunately, in some spots in our village, we have off-street parking that, we really should work on, type thing. Yes, sir.
Yes, going up the hill on East Main, the pavilion that Matt put in with the amphitheater, that's got to be looked at. If you look at the sign and the time of parking, if we're going to give permits out, we light it, we plow it, we should at least get some money for parking there. That's another thing.
Well, from a planning perspective, I can't talk about cost.
Yeah,
That's
well, I
you guys.
understand, that's us.
I can only talk about this part to make it allowable for the planning board to have the discussion. Yes, sir.
If you don't mind just getting me up to speed with the solar canopy. So for example, the parking lot that's behind Divine, where the solar panel of this charging station just got put in.
Yep.
Would that be an area that could be, work for a solar canopy?
Yes, it could, if somebody wanted to install it, that's right. We
Not
would,
the village, it'd have to be a private person.
well, no, unless the village got grants to pay for it totally, like those other two projects, then no. It would have to be a private entity who wants to come in and do that.
Okay.
Typically, we see these I've seen them in universities, I've seen them in big parking lots, because one of the things what's happening right now is people are taking green land, forests, etc., leveling them and putting solar panels in there, and right next to it is a mall with this giant parking lot. And it makes no sense. It's like, let's leave the green alone, and let's take those parking lots, and let's put the solar panels on the roof up there. It cuts down on the plowing that the owner has to do because he doesn't plow there anymore because it snows up on top. Now, obviously, once it melts off, then the solar panels will work again, but
Yeah.
it keeps it cool.
Can I share my knee-jerk reaction?
Sure.
I personally would not want to see a solar canopy in that parking lot because part of the experience for me, speaking only for myself, is the experience includes what I see and what I hear as part of my shopping or eating experience. I would not want to be sitting out on the patio outside, behind any of those restaurants staring at a solar canopy. I'd much rather stare across and see the old buildings.
I don't disagree with you. I would love to see in that parking lot, I'd love to see a parking garage that has a facade that looks like the old Sweet-Or building.
Interesting.
That's what I'd like to see, with some storefronts along the front on the bottom. But we got to get funding for that.
That's not a bad idea.
That's what I'd like, and then take the solar and put it up on the roof.
In 94, we were looking to put a parking deck.
Yeah.
And that's what I always wanted, a steel parking deck with the concrete floors and to drive, so you don't drive off. Then put the roof on, you could put that up.
Well, we just need funding. Everything's possible with money.
How about get a hold of Musk? No.
Yeah. Okay, now this says a whole lot, but you don't have to, you can read it at your leisure, but I'm going to tell you what it basically says. Right now, the code basically says if you have a building that was built before 1965, and you either want to rebuild it or you want to add on to it, you're exempt from parking regulations. Wrong. That was wrong. It was not supposed to say that. What was supposed to be written in the code that slipped through the cracks was, it was supposed to say that if you had a building, and this is only an example, it could be any variation. If you had a building that was built before 1965, and it had, say, commercial on the first floor and 2 apartments upstairs, and then you wanted to add 2 more apartments or 3 more apartments or whatever, you were supposed to be exempt from only the original building. In other words, the commercial and the 2 apartments. But you'd have to supply parking for everything above and beyond that, like the additional apartments or additional commercial or whatever you wanted to do. The code that is right now does not do that. It just says you don't need to supply any parking. So you don't even have to supply it for what you have. That is wrong. We need to get that fixed, and that's what all this word says. Okay? Okay, and we talked a little bit about trees. Well, here's a little section here to add 1 shade tree, interior parking lots, and shade islands, etc., for every 10 cars. And this is something that the planning board wants to be able to enforce, and in order to do that, it's got to be in the code. Now, obviously, if they put up a solar canopy or something like that, we would exempt the trees in those areas. Okay, next item. What we wanted to do here is, this is a lighting item. We want to be able to bring the lighting into conformity, because there are some lights that are just way too bright for where they are. So what we changed the code here to say that for lots equal to or less than 1 acre, bless you, that if you're changing your outside lighting, you have to bring it all into compliance. We also added another step in here that says that if it's greater than 1 acre, you have to bring 50% or more into compliance. That's that change. Yes, sir.
I would like to say that we at least got to get these businesses to be able to have some neon lights to draw business, you know.
Well, this is part, yes, go ahead. But this is like, it's like shining on
Market
light.
light, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. This isn't sign lighting. This is lighting lighting. Okay, the next is section 605 here. This is, I don't know if you've seen the LED neon lights that, people like rope lighting, etc. Well, that's fine and dandy up on Route 9 in the CMU district, but not in the downtown, in the village historic district, and that's just this is wrong. We shouldn't have that there. So that's what that.
You're saying no neon lights for nothing in the village?
Well, not the rope lighting, and that the people are using now to outline their windows and stuff like that. The other lights that they have, they're all okay. But that right there shouldn't be in the historic district.
There's one on Main Street in the village, or in West Main there.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. That's right. Right now, we have no ordinance that says either way.
Either way.
Okay, now this is the color temperature of LED bulbs. You've probably heard the phrase of 2700 Kelvin. That's the way that's what they use for the new LED lights, etc. So,
Temperature, I'm sorry, what temperature?
2700 Kelvin.
Yellow, okay.
Yeah, that's correct, 27 Kelvin. But we're hearing feedback from some of the contractors and commercial industries that they can't find 2700 Kelvin.
33 would be close enough.
So they want to, right now, 2700 Kelvin is in the code, so you can't deviate with that without a variance. So we want to give a little latitude to the planning board to work with them to say maybe, okay, maybe 3K is okay. But the planning board needs some documentation that they can do that. Okay, the other changes you can see, they're just typos, and clarifications, multi-panel to multi-panel / multi-tenant, because there was confusion as to where multi-panel and multi-tenant was used. So to kind of clean that up, we're changing those 3 sections to just change the wording. Section 7.5, we're deleting the whole section because it's irrelevant. It talks about the code enforcement officer doing signs, 30 days, etc. And that all the signs come to the planning board, so this is irrelevant. So we're just going to take that whole section out. And then the last one is also another word change. It actually says section, but there's no such thing as a section. It's an article. So we just had to change the word. Okay, this is supplementary standards. This is kind of a breakdown of what the solar canopies would be like, the height, house setbacks, etc. So this just gives a little more description since this solar canopies is going to be new to the code. Okay, zoning board of appeals, section 9.1, there was some, it wasn't clear how the ZBA's notification should flow. Planning board was okay, but for some reason, the planning board's process did not make it over to the ZBA in the code change. So we're fixing that. And then definitions, we're adding solar carports and solar canopies. Here's the definitions right here. And then I'm done, unless you guys got some questions or anything you'd like me to help answer. Anyone? Yes, sir.
The solar panels on roofs, there was nothing in the previous plan, this didn't,
No, no. No, we have solar panels.
but for,
For homes and businesses, that's all in the code. This is another element of that, and that is a carport with a solar top roof on it, or in the larger realm, in commercial areas, solar canopies.
And you've got 15 feet for the height of the solar canopies, this is what's gonna be allowed. What if you have a structure that's gonna go above that? That's gonna require a variance, or is it gonna be allowed?
Yes, that is correct. We gave 15 feet to allow for, large vehicles, et cetera, to be able to pass around under it. And also, some of the terminology in, that we're proposing actually requires that there's clear access and egress paths underneath the canopy in that. So, but hopefully nobody wants to go higher than 15 feet. And the 15 feet is from the ground to, the parking area that you're parking. So going any higher than that would be kind of silly.
Well, if we have a multi-storage, multi-level storage area, if we had something like that, you're gonna have a variance to put it on the roof of that building.
Well, that's a good point. Maybe we'll have to clarify that. It would be 15 feet above the surface area where the cars are parking. So if you have a multiple layers, we would take that 15 feet from the top layer up, if that's where you want to put it.
All right, that's
Because if you go like the Danbury Mall, they have a similar thing. If you go to the top of their parking garage, they have a solar canopy over the top section. And it's about, I would say, 12 to 15 feet clearance so that, larger vehicles can get around under there without having to worry about, hitting. Other questions, comments? Questions, comments? If not, oh yes.
Well, I guess my only question was, so what happens from here?
Well, from here, it goes to those folks on that side of the table. And because they own the law, I'm only proposing changes.
Understood.
So now I would have to hand it off and say that the board will then have to set a public hearing and then proceed with seeker, et cetera, for enacting that law. Is that correct, Ian?
Yeah, so we would have to create a local law, which would take this draft. We'd put that into proper format as a local law. There, throughout this, there was some language that needs to be added, so that we'd have to work and develop that. And once we have that developed, you would introduce the local law by resolution. You would then circulate it to the necessary bodies that would have to review that. You would set a public hearing, and then you'd have a public hearing, any comments, if there are any changes, whatever happens after that. But ultimately, you would lead to, after a public hearing, at some point in time, a resolution to adopt.
Just FYI, Michelle Grigg and Ms. Cobb have already drafted a draft local law for your perusal.
Okay. And in that local law, because there were some places here where there was like language required, did they do that, or are they waiting for us? What's
No, it's already drafted, because what you saw tonight, I actually took that and pulled the sections out of it to put on these charts.
Okay.
So, but I want to follow up on the point that was made just a little while ago about the height. I want to make sure that it's clear that it's the height of the parking surface, so that not from the ground level, because we do have a multi-level parking garage, which we don't yet, but maybe we will sometime, that we won't have to change that.
So that would be some sort of solar panel on a canopy that was not angled in any way, otherwise it would,
Yeah,
because
no,
the
they're
top of,
It's
these are
pretty
gonna be,
flat, and like I said, if you go to the Danbury Mall, drive to the top, and just look around, you'll see them. They're all up there. If you happen to be at the University of Rhode Island, you'll see they don't have a parking garage, but they have fields of solar canopies where the cars park, yes.
Can you give us any idea what the process would be like where a neighbor, either a tenant or a neighboring business, says, hey, I don't want this extra 15 feet or the panels because it's going to block a view? How would you decide that kind of,
Well, there would
that
be,
conflict?
well, there would be the open planning board meetings, there'd be public hearings, et cetera, to discuss this when we go through the secret process.
Okay.
Other questions, yes?
May I just follow up to your answer? Would you have some sort of possible timeline, like reasonable timeline of when to expect that these things would be memorialized?
Do you have anything to say?
Well, like I'm asking, I guess I'm asking the attorney, like what would be a reasonable timeline that when this process would be completed?
So some of that's largely dependent on what the board does with this. If there's comments, this is the first, I believe, they're all hearing it. So they're all gonna wanna look at this, analyze it, make edits, make changes. There'll probably be conversations with Tom about it. Some of that's dependent on
Sure.
the finalizing. But the legal process, once you introduce it, you could do it, once you introduce it, you could do it within couple months, once it's ready to go, unless there's comments, and if the comments or changes, once I introduce a local law, if there's a substantial change to that local law, I may have to redo the process and recirculate, which then.
No, I understand that. Just provided this, in a smooth process, this might be 90 days?
As soon as I can get, if I have a law that's everyone's ready to go on, I would say within 90 days you'd have a local law.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
Good job, thank you, Tom.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Well appreciated, Tim.
Next on the
Where do you
agenda,
find the time?
Well, I'm retired, you know.
Yeah, oh my.
next item on the agenda is a discussion. As the board is aware, the fire department will be giving up car 3 at the end of this year, and you need to decide, will that vehicle be transferred to the police department, or would you want me to auction it?
So it's up to the board.
I'd rather see that car stay with the village at this time because we already own it.
Okay.
And if we determine that we don't need it, we can always auction it off in the future. So this time I'd say hang on to it.
I don't mind you hanging on to it, but there need to be, if you're giving it to another apartment, since they have money invested into it, we need to have them invest some money back to the fire company. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Part of the reason for that is when we bought the new chief's car, the plan was to sell the third one to make up for the deficit of buying the new car. That was the plan from a year and a half ago. So this would disrupt our financial plans for how that money was gonna work if we don't sell it.
So does the board wanna hold off until next month's meeting, think about it?
Table it for discussion for the next meeting.
So you got some time to think about it? We'll table that to the 13th. In November?
Yep. Next item on the agenda is need approval to hire part-time police assistant Julia Egas. Can I have a motion?
I make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Or I mean, yeah, all in favor? Opposed? Carries.
EFW Post 5913 Auxiliary would like to have 2 road tolls, November 9th and 10th, and May 24th and 25th.
Is there a motion?
That was, excuse me for a second.
Yes.
A road closed?
Tolls. That's where they stand in Delaverne and,
Oh, to make the
Yeah.
motion. No, I'll make a motion for that.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
motion to authorize the village treasurer to transfer $12,000 from the Lake Fund held at NBT Bank to the general fund to cover the remaining contractual obligation for treatments 2 and 3 to the lake.
So this was discussed back in the spring, the three payments that we would pay for the treatment of the lake. I believe we already made, not believe, I know we already made the motion to do this. We're just transferring the money from the lake fund money to pay off the remaining portion of the bills of the lake. for the treatment.
You need a motion?
You need a motion.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Mayor, that concludes the printed portion of the agenda.
All right, I have one thing, it's like, I would ask the board permission to put on the agenda. I will be stepping down from the water board, and I want to appoint Steve Plank as the water commissioner.
I'll make the motion,
To make the bend the rules for the meeting.
yes.
Give a second.
I'll second.
And Craig, we get a motion for Steve Plank to be the water board commissioner.
I'll make the motion.
Give a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks.
Welcome aboard.
Now, that will be to complete your term.
Complete my turn, correct.
Okay.
Anybody else have discuss?
I have one thing, came to my attention, and you could tell me if I'm right, we don't have a local law against littering.
Correct,
We don't have one against loitering.
correct.
What was the third one?
That was it.
That was it. So I'd like to make a motion to have the attorney draw up.
We have to go through, the
Legislative.
legislation.
So we'll kick it over to
So
legislation.
kick it over to legislation.
I'll second that motion and kick it over.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public?
All right, we need a motion to go into executive session.
I'll make the motion.
Is there anybody that wants to speak?
Who was that?
I did.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.